region alone, a rough crescent of territory less than 20 miles long, but graves are not the only mark the war has made on the land. Here and there a patch of ground gouged by thousands of shell craters has been left alone. Decades of erosion have softened the scarring, but what was once a flat field now looks like rugged, grassed-over sand dunes. On the fields that have been smoothed out again, like those surrounding the Devonshire's cemetery, some of the tractors have armor plating beneath the driver's seat because harvesting machinery cannot distinguish between potatoes, sugar beets, and live shells. More than 700 million artillery and mortar rounds were fired on the Western Front between 1914 and 1918, of which an estimated 15% failed to explode. Every year, these leftover shells kill people. 36 in 1991 alone, for instance, when France excavated the track bed for a new high-speed rail line. Dotted throughout the region are patches of uncleared forest or scrub surrounded by yellow danger signs in French and English, warning hikers away. The French government employs teams of démineurs, roving bomb disposal specialists who respond to calls when villagers discover shells. They collect and destroy 900 tons of unexploded munitions each year. More than 630 French démineurs have died in the line of duty since 1946. Like those shells, the First World War itself has remained in our lives, below the surface, because we live in a world that was so much formed by it and by the industrialized total warfare it inaugurated. Even though I was born long after it ended, the war always seemed a presence in our family. My mother would tell me about the wild enthusiasm of crowds at military parades when, at last, the United States joined the Allies. A beloved first cousin of hers marched off to the sound of those cheers, to be killed in the final weeks of fighting. She never forgot the shock and disillusionment. And no one in my father's family thought it absurd that two of his relatives had fought on opposite sides of the First World War, one in the French army, one in the German. If your country called, you went. My father's sister married a man who fought for Russia in that war, and we owed his presence in our lives to events triggered by it, the Russian Revolution and the bitter civil war that followed, after which, finding himself on the losing side, he came to America. We shared a summer household with his aunt and uncle, and friends of his who were also veterans of 1914, 1918, were regular visitors. As a boy, I vividly remember standing next to one of them, all of us in bathing suits and about to go swimming, and then looking down and seeing the man's foot. All his toes had been sheared off by a German machine gun bullet, somewhere on the Eastern Front. The war also lived on in the illustrated adventure tales that British cousins sent me for Christmas. Young Tim or Tom or Trevor, though a mere teenager whom the colonel had declared too young for combat, would bravely dodge flying shrapnel to carry that same wounded colonel to safety after the regiment, bagpipes playing, had gone over the top into no man's land. In later episodes, he always managed to find some way, as a spy or an aviator or through sheer boldness, around the deadlock of trench warfare. As I grew older and learned more history, I found that this very deadlock had its own fascination. For more than 3 years, the armies on the Western Front were virtually locked in place, burrowed into trenches with dugouts sometimes 40 feet below ground, periodically emerging for terrible battles that gained at best a few miles of muddy, shell-blasted wasteland. The destructiveness of those battles still seems beyond belief. In addition to the dead, on the first day of the Somme offensive, another 36,000 British troops were wounded. The magnitude of slaughter in the war's entire span was beyond anything in European experience. More than 35% of all German men who were between the ages of 19 and 22 when the fighting broke out, for example, were killed in the next 4.5 years, and many of the remainder grievously wounded. For France, the toll was proportional.